Green Gorilla beat. The content of this channel is for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. You're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification button. And please, feel free to share the video. Thank you. What's cracking, everybody? I'm the G with a PhD. You know where you're tuned into. It's the Green Gorilla channel. It's the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up with no chases. What's cracking with y'all, man? Now, you know how I do, man. Before I get things started, I want to give a shout out to all of the members of the Green Gorilla channel. And also I want to give a shout out to all the people in the chat. Good afternoon. James Square, what's cracking with you? Mr. Heat, what's going on? Corey Green, what's cracking? Very Little. Sir Abadayu. Sir Anthony. Rasheed Barnes, what's cracking? How y'all doing, man? So let me get this membership thing going, and then after that I'll get right to the proceedings this evening. 77 Base X, what's cracking? Gemini Getting Knowledge, Craig, Antonio Feria, Omni Americana, Cameron 87, Deshaun Nolly, Brian Peaks, Mr. Lou Meth, Michael Ross, Nelso, Apex Prowler, Kareen Henry, Doc LaRock, Julius Ferguson, B. Hillfire, Jay Charles, Mark Holt, Lee Ways, Jeffrey Speed, The Nameless Protagonist, The Face, Raiz Muajid, Mark Swift, Show Me, Black Dog, Odd Collar, Raphael Brown, Deanne, Donald Watts, Barry Little, Ryan Jackson, hiphop.catv, Coach DC, The Remedy, Kashif Caldwell, Ominous Black, I Am Black Man, Nichita, True King 337, Mr. Blue Collar, Barnolas, Kyle J. Sura, I'm Just Jules, The Book of Ronin, Ab Media 83, Brian McMurray, TD Hip Hop Media, Drew Main, Artisan MC, Mr. Heat, Afro Analyst, Isa Abdul Zahir, Sir Anthony, ML Law, Charles Rogers, Universal 178, Blacksword 404, Rasheed Barnes, Aaron Smith, DH, C Truth the Revelator, Gold Professor, Black Pill Ned Stark, Arthur Unknown, Dr. Tiasan Johnson, Brian Williams, Kalonja Kala, Ricky Dawson, Cedric Bowman, 27360, BK Born Shahid, James Washington, Hostile Adept, Seven Coast Dojo, W. Pierre 1, Rogish the Billmonger, iCare, BGS Ivmore, Marvin Battle Jr., Soul Pen, Anu 219, Pursuer Prisoner, Taz, Kwaku 217, S. Haywood, Dragon 59, Supreme Ivmore, Adrian Hicks, Jay Bailey, Mr. Michi, Mo Mal, William Ruffin, and Asangwa. Shout out to y'all, man, and y'all support for the Green Gorilla, man. Y'all deserve a round of applause, man, for the cause. We give y'all a shout out, man. Thank you for supporting the Green Gorilla channel and helping me to keep this thing going. Appreciate your help and your support. All of your hard-earned money, because I know how hard it is to earn money in this culture and in this society. So shout out to y'all for y'all support, because you don't have to support me. I appreciate that. Straight up. So if you're inquiring about how you can become a member of the Green Gorilla channel, well, here's how. What's good, everybody? I'm the G with a PhD, and you're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel, the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up, no chaser. Today, I want to introduce you to my new membership program that consists of 5 levels where you can invest in the Green Gorilla channel on a monthly basis and receive level-specific perks. Memberships are special because they improve the quality of the content of the channel and will help me to be able to keep the channel going. Now, to participate in the Green Gorilla channel membership program, all you have to do is hit the join button, which is located right next to the subscribe button on my channel page. Now, for all of my subscribers who decide not to participate in my membership program, nothing will change. The content will keep coming the way it always has. Thanks for watching, and be careful out here, people. Bless. All right, man, I'm back. And for the most part, I'm not going to show a graphic today in relation to what I'm going to talk about. Although I normally would, I'm not going to do so today. But I am going to read an excerpt from Dr. Tommy J. Curry, whom you know about, and it's going to explain the ways in which intersectionality uses the subculture of violence theory to delineate a particular caricature of black men. And this caricature of black men that is utilized via subculture of violence theory doesn't accurately give an account of black men and their lived experiences and their vulnerabilities. A lot of us like to think that we're impervious to harm. But again and again, you see the evidence that that's not the case. Black men suffer from a great deal of injustices in this culture. And to not admit it is to try to alpha your way through life. But man, that's crazy. You don't have to do that. You have to understand that there are systems and structures in place that work against us. And we have to combat them. But in order to combat them, we first have to be aware of them. And so that's what this show is intended to do. If you're triggered by such information, you're always free to click off. You don't have to stay around. You don't have to listen. If you think that the content that you hear here is not of your liking and it doesn't help you to push forward your own personal goals or your own ideological aims, I would suggest then that you remove yourself from the channel now. That's just my trigger warning. But having said all that, I'm going to read 2 sections from a paper that was written by Tommy Curry that demonstrates that contemporary Black feminist theory utilizes the subculture of violence theory in order to portray Black men as pathological rapists and abusers. So let's just get right into it. All right? So, I mean, over and over again, Black men are regarded as the white people of Black people. I even tried to develop a campaign to get a documentary done so that we can explain this more adroitly, more acutely, more expertly, more aesthetically. But we got to do the work this way. It doesn't matter to me how the work is done. It's just got to get done. So in other words, we're trying to mimic or imitate white men and their pathology. Now, one could argue whether or not white men are pathological, especially to women to begin with, but that's a whole nother subject altogether. Right now, we're going to focus on the claim that Black men are trying to imitate white men and can't imitate white men, and so therefore they resort to rape, violence, and savagery because that's the compensation for them not being able to attain white manhood. This is how this goes, okay? So, what Curry says is that throughout the 20th century, which is 1900s on up till now, to the 2000s, Black men were depicted by science to be irrational and apatriarchal, meaning they're not patriarchal and they're irrational. But we say this about ourselves as well, don't we? We don't think straight and we don't have control over our family lives. So from the 40s to the 80s, you had white criminologists. It's important to understand that these people were white. These criminologists, these ethnographers and feminists who took their specialization to be the ghetto culture of Blacks, described Black males as street men who, because they had no fathers or patriarchal role models, suffered from a female personality disorder, from imitating their mothers, and hypermasculinity. Now, I don't know if you know what hypermasculinity actually means, but it means that you can't actually attain manhood. It's a lack of manhood, right? So these criminologists and ethnographers and feminists specialize in studying Black men in the ghetto, street men, and the idea was that they suffered from female personality. Okay? Now, under segregation, it was decided that Black males were not and could not be men. They were thought to be feminine and in search of their manhood. As civil rights became a reality, white feminists began to demonize Black men for their aspirations to achieve manhood and political equality. In The Dialectic of Sex, which is a book published almost a decade before Michelle Wallace published her book, The Black Macho and the Myth of the Superwoman, Shulamith Firestone argued that, and here's the quotes now, the relationship between the black man and the white man duplicates the relationship of the male child to the father. Ain't that some shit? This is her words now. We have seen how at a certain point, in order to assert his ego, the child must transfer his identification from the female, powerless, to the male, powerful. You get that? You get that? That's crazy. Firestone suggests that black men in America have three choices. Three. Give in to the white father and become an Uncle Tom. Resist the white father and be denied masculinity, whereby the black man will exploit women to prove he is still a man, or what she deems the pimp complex. Or three, simply kill the father and replace him. Firestone argued that, and this is quotes again, unless the black man makes the first choice, identification with the father on the father's own terms, he is subject to castration, unquote. So this idea of the black male driven by lack was a powerful theme running throughout white criminology and feminist theory during the 70s. Hence the appeal of psychoanalysis as a method of inferring the unconscious motivations of masculinity. So they were using psychoanalysis as a means by which to explore the unconscious motivations of masculine behavior, Freudian psychology. With the introduction of the subculture of violence theory in 1967, Martin Wolfgang and Franco Ferracuti claimed that they had found an explanation for the higher rates of homicides among blacks. Their theory suggested that the high rates of black men murdered by their spouses could be explained by the subordinate role that black men took to black women within the home. This is similar to Elliot Lebo's ethnographies, where he documented a case of a black woman abusing her husband because she claimed he was not a man. White social scientists use racist stereotypes of black men and black women to explain social deviance and violence without ever accounting for the conditions black people found themselves in. Menachem Amir, who's a student of Wolfgang and Ferracuti, argued that, and here's a quote from Amir, the Negro subculture is an historically unique subculture which embodies all the characteristics of a lower class subculture, but has some of its features in a more pronounced form. The Negro subculture is characterized by the revolving of life around some basic focal concerns, which include a search for thrills through aggressive actions and sexual exploits. And this is back to Kurt. That's an Amir quote. This subcultural inclination emerged from the ambivalence of the Negro male type. Unable to produce an authentic and positive idea of black manhood, Amir posits that, quote, young boys are imbued with negative or at least ambivalent feelings towards masculine functions. They don't want to be men. Either they don't care about being men or they do everything that they can do to avoid being like men. That's crazy. Sexual and aggressive behavior becomes the main vehicle for asserting their worthiness. Therefore, they idealize personal violence and prowess, which substitute for social and economic advantages. So since you can't get money, you gain status by being violent and being able to fuck. That's the claim being made here. Okay? Now, that's absolutely crazy to me, but this is where we are. This is where we are. All right. Now, what's funny about this is white feminists adopted Amir's view of black masculinity throughout their texts. So, one such feminist is a woman by the name of Susan Brown Miller. Okay. And here's a quote from her. The single most important contribution of Amir's Philadelphia study was to place the rapist squarely within the subculture of violence. The rapist, it was revealed, had no separate identifiable pathology aside from the individual quirks and personality disturbances that might characterize any single offender who commits any sort of crime. By making rape an intraracial crime, because at one time rape was not perceived to be, especially from black men, an intraracial threat. During segregation, that was the whole narrative. Black male rapist. Watch out for the black male rapist. He's going to fuck these white women. He's going to rape the white women. That's how Emmett Till got killed. Next thing you know, that man is beaten to where you can't even recognize his face. A young boy. How many men were lynched? Black men. Based on the accusations of white women. That they were some sort of sexual threat. Thousands. But, you know, I digress. So this Susan Brown Miller woman adopted Amir's subcultural of violence theory and related it to intra, which is within the group, intraracial rape. All right? By making rape an intraracial crime, the disproportionate rates of rape within the black community became synonymous with a cultural defect in black men. The inability of black men to rise within a white capitalist patriarchal society was theorized as a lack within all black males. According to Joyce Williams and Karen Holmes, who are another group of white feminists, the male sex organ became the identity of the black male as well as his tenuous link with life itself. But while he might be given approval for uninhibited sexual activity with black women. So, in other words, black men are nothing but walking dicks. That's all we are. That's all we think about. That's how we identify ourselves, with our penis. Solely. And paramountly. That's all we think with is with our dicks. Now, I'm not saying that some men don't think with their dicks, but come on, man. It's the only ambition that we have in life is sexual conquest. Seems ridiculous to me, but okay. Oh, well. Anyway, through rape, William and Holmes, these two feminists, insisted that black men found some semblance of manhood. Because in raping minority women, minority males frequently are doing no more than imitating the white male. These are their words. White feminists, right? Imitating the white male. And Curry goes on to say, these compensatory, which is, you know, to compensate for not being a real man. So you rape women. Now, I don't know any men like this personally. I don't cavort and socialize with men who go around thinking that the only way they could be men is by raping women. How many of you do that or have friends like that? I mean, this is a phenomenon that's supposed to be applied to the vast majority of black men, like we go around just taking sex from black women. I mean, what kind of bullshit is this? But anyway, these compensatory accounts of black masculinity asserted that poor black males are culturally defective and motivated to rape the women surrounding them. So that's the only way we can appear to be a man is by raping them. saying. You can't even make this shit up, man. You can't make it up. While the authors of this theory admit that there is no empirical evidence, nor is there any empirical validation for either the myth of black male sexuality or that of sex is compensatory behavior, these claims remain the basis of how black males are theorized throughout multiple disciplines, even intersectionality. Even intersectionality. I think that deserves a bomb right there. Even intersectionality, which is supposed to be liberatory for black folks. But we know who it's liberatory for. Anyway, intersectionality theorists have not shied away from utilizing these theories in their descriptions and analytic assertions about black males. So Kimberly Crenshaw wrote a paper called Mapping the Margins. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's available online. It's free. All you got to do is say Mapping the Margins, Kimberly Crenshaw, and you'll see the reference to it, a PDF, and you can read it for yourself. I've read it on several occasions. Okay, I have even taught it because I was required to do so in teaching a particular course. It was part of the damn syllabi that had to be taught. Okay, but anyway, in that paper, and I'm paraphrasing Curry here, she cites Williams and Holmes's book, The Feminist that we just discussed, as evidence that intraracial rape is a means of social control within the racial sexualization system. Now, this is without empirical evidence at all. No empirical evidence. But this becomes part of the popular narrative and a way to create policy and legislation and to develop money and funds and all kind of policies at Fortune 500 companies to deal with the terrible way that these women are treated. All without any empirical evidence, what the fuck soever. That's ridiculous, man. That shit needs to be burned out, exterminated. Needs to be burned out. So anyway, she quotes Williams and Holmes's book as evidence that intraracial rape is a means of social control within the racial sexualization system. As shown above, William and Holmes only account for rape mimetically, where black males are motivated to rape through compensatory violence and the imitation of white patriarchy. The only account for, we do this because we want to be like white men. How many of you actually want to be like white men? Like, I don't know these men. Where are they? No, men want to be successful. They want to have money, families, wealth, health. But how's that wanting to be a white man? Why does that have anything to do with wanting to imitate white men? I just don't understand it. But okay, whatever. So there's another thinker, Frank Rudy Cooper, and he claims that heterosexual black men will feel compelled to prove their manhood through acts that distance them from marginalized others. Emulation of normative masculinity thus makes it more likely heterosexual black men will seek to offset their feelings of powerlessness by subordinating others. So because you don't feel like a man, you're going to make everybody know that you're a man by subordinating them and subjecting them to rape and violence. Now, this is coming out of the academy. This is the genealogy of the thinking that's occurring now that's everywhere. And it all starts with these racist social scientists, and then it moves on to feminists, and then it seeps and finds its way into intersectional theory. So anyway, this Cooper person, Frank Rudy Cooper, does not provide any sociological or ethnographic evidence to support his interpretations. Instead, he insists this need to subordinate others leads black men to oppress black women and gays to prove their self-worth is obvious. So this is where all this comes from. We need to feel powerful, so we subordinate gay people and black women. That's what we do. That's our consummate desire. That's our motivating force in life. That's what we seek to do on a daily basis, is to stigmatize gay people. To be perfectly honest, gay people ain't on my radar, man. But that's because I don't like meeting the seat. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm not in search for meeting the seat. You can do what you want to do. But in my daily experience and in my life, I'm not thinking about gay folks, man. How many of you are thinking, I don't like them gay people, man. Fuck them gay people. I can't stand gay people. They don't even come into my awareness, man, on a daily basis. They just don't. But anyway, this is just obvious. No empirical evidence, no ethnography, no sociological evidence, none of it. Isn't it just obvious? Isn't it? It's just understood. It's implicit. Anyway, his claim rests on Bell Hooks's theorization of black men in a work called We Real Cool, Black Men and Masculinity. Okay? Now, I've had the opportunity to read excerpts of We Real Cool because I've taken 3 seminars in feminist philosophy myself. I wasn't required to do it, but I wanted to do it to see what it was because I'm naturally inquisitive, and I had already finished all of my coursework, by the way. But I wanted to know this. And some of the stuff that I found there, I was alarmed by. I didn't say very much. I just kind of kept quiet, just kept reading. I'm like, what? Some of these claims are just outrageous. But anyway, the claims that this Cooper person makes, Frank Rudy Cooper, comes to him via Bell Hooks's We Real Cool. And throughout this book, We Real Cool, Hooks asserts that a hypersexual black male subculture developed as a response to racial oppression, because white men dictated the terms of masculinity and controlled the social, economic, and political resources that made the attainment of manhood impossible for black men. Hooks suggests that black men began, quote, equating manhood with fucking, and saw status and economic success as synonymous with endless sexual conquest. So that's all black men want to do. Fuck, 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 get money and fucking, 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 fuck. And that's what a man is. That's what we think manhood is. These ideas are not given to us primarily by black men who have black men's interest in mind. These are coming from white sociologists to white feminists, then to black feminists. And this is what we're told we are. And then people say, well, there's no real need for black male studies. Man, get the fuck out of here. Man, stop it. Come on now. Come on. So anyway, while Subculture of Violence theorists focus specifically on poor young black males, Hooks suggests that all, not poor young black men, but all black males, all black masculinity is sexually coercive. And here are Hooks's words. In that world, black males from any class, whether individually or in groups, could find affirmation of their power in sexual conquest. Now, this is real cool. Like, the only way that we identify our manhood is not through the attainment of other goals and objectives. It's only associated with sexual conquest. Who the fuck told her what our belief systems were, what our intentions were, and what our values were? White criminologists and sociologists and white feminists? Why not just ask us? Huh? Why not just refer to us and do ethnographic and sociological studies about us so that we can tell you what our desires, our values, and our attitudes are? Thank you. Why not just consult with us? We'll tell you. Previous scholars have noted the prevalence of these descriptions of black men in feminist and intersexual literature, as well as various social sciences. The conceptualization of black men as violent misogynists and savage rapists remain a supposition of gender theory throughout Western institutions. As Richard Pitt and George Sanders explain, masculinity researchers have nevertheless reduced marginalized masculinities, particularly black men's masculinities, to pathologized stereotypes and caricatures, whether in descriptions of it by Bell Hooks, explanation for it by Mark Anthony Neal, or prescriptions for managing it by Athena Matua. Essential black masculinity is almost always portrayed as non-normative. In other words, don't be like them. They're fucked up. There's something wrong with them. These frameworks are well solidified and are coded as referring to black masculinity and cultural defect. Black male studies locates black manhood in the lived reality of black men and boys, preferring facts about black males instead of deficit-based frameworks that ignore the substantial evidence of black male egalitarianism and gender progressivism. Because if you look at it, I remember, hearing a show on BGS's channel where he talked about how most women from other communities actually like black men because black men are more gender progressive than most other men. Hispanics, white, Asian, they like us because we're cool. We don't stress shit. We're not trying to control people all the time and trying to exert machismo. We merely want women rather, to be cooperative. Sorry about that. I got this woman trying to call me. I got to holler at her a little bit later. Doing my show. But anyway, so there's the first part there, man. I'll be back with the second. All right, man, I'm back. I know it ain't no visuals right now, but I took a pause for the calls 1 second, and I'm back at it like a crack addict. So now what I'm going to do is read the second section, and then I'm about to be out and determine whether or not you got any questions about this, if there's something you didn't understand. I'll be willing to do that. Okay. But at the present moment, I'm going to read the second section and then I'm out. Okay. So, black male studies as paradigm. Black male studies insist that the racial castration that black males experience within Western patriarchal societies severs them from patriarchy in ways similar to women, while nonetheless creating caricatures of black men and boys that serve to justify their extermination. A black sounding name, a black male knowing more than a white person, or simply attempting to live socially can trigger violence. Similar to the analysis of Miller and social dominance theorists such as Jim Sedanius, black male studies utilizes a concept of an outgroup or subordinate male group within its analysis. The man not, however, becomes a constitutive and persistent feature of Western patriarchal societies that are created through the simultaneity of negation and caricature. Black male studies argues that this grouping of black men through caricature acts as depositories of savagery and entities of evil that have endured from ethnology to our present constructs of gender. So in deciphering that, when you caricaturize us as savage rapists, you get to exterminate us and subject us to social death. You justify our deaths and killings. You justify our being left out of the social contract such that we can actually function, flourish, and thrive within the confines of it. Then Curry goes on to say, I, however, argue that these racialized male groupings are as structural as they are idealistic, such that the social valuations tend towards the replication of the man-not antipathy through all levels of social practice, theory, and values. So when you group males, black males, in this way, they are idealistic, but what they do is they create structures that lead to our death and social death. So contrary to the work of bell hooks and other black feminist theories that explain the higher rates of black male crime and violence through masculinity, as if masculinity in and of itself is a bad thing, is a harmful thing, black male study scholars favor more epidemiological and sociological analysis. So instead of using gender theory, which presupposes a whole bunch of shit without any empirical evidence whatsoever, black male study scholars, we want to study epidemiology. We want to study sociology so we can get some sort of empirical track on what's actually happening to black males in the environments in which they live. Not ideas about who they are developed by white criminologists or white feminists, and then how they reshape and rehash and remix their thoughts into their theories about themselves. But let's black men study ourselves predicated upon sociological and epidemiological empirical evidence. That's the goal. The higher risk that black men have towards becoming perpetrators of certain kinds of violence also demands a consideration of the kinds of victimization he has to those very same kinds of violence at the hands of others. So yeah, black men do a lot of shit that's pathological, but so do a lot of other people in the black community, including black women and gays. I woke up this morning, man, and Dr. Tiasan Johnson had done a video that demonstrated how callous people are to the pain of black men. There was a woman that ran over her boyfriend, man, like ran over his legs with a car. And another woman was witnessing this shit, and she just laughed the whole time. Like it was funny that this guy got ran over by a car. If that's not morose, if that's not antipathy, if that's not insidious and careless neglect of being aware of the pain of black men and what they go through and have to encounter in this culture, you'll never get the shit, man. You'll never get it. So if nobody else gets it, we got to study ourselves. And hopefully we can begin to have some sort of compassion for one another. Because right now, I'm not seeing a lot of compassion from one black man to another. I see a lot of disdain and disputatiousness, which is unfortunate. Let me get back to it. Black men are theorized almost solely as the perpetrators of abuse, not as victims of child physical and sexual abuse or intimate partner violence, despite the overwhelming evidence showing otherwise. The interpretive framework being deployed to understand black men and boys under intersectionality and within the black masculinity literature supposes pathology. From the jump, we're just pathological. It is this theoretical orientation that black male studies rejects and seeks to replace with comparative study and empirically informed theory. The peculiar racialized outgroup male category is a feature of sociogenic processes occurring throughout various patriarchal societies. And this whole idea of sociogenesis means that they're created by social structures. That's what sociogenic means. The negation of these men as non-human beings approaching savagery has similarities to other racist regimes and genocides. It is precisely this constructing of males as being in opposition to civil society that provides a grounding for conceptual analysis concerning the limits of ontology and the malleability of the black male as a theoretical territory. That's a lot to say, man. A lot of flourishes there, but I'm gonna break it down. Constructing males in being in opposition to civil society, meaning that they're uncivilized. When you construct this way, it provides a grounding for conceptual analysis concerning the limits of ontology and malleability of the black male as a theoretical territory, meaning that you can only study black males in one kind of way. You can only have knowledge about them in one kind of way, the pathological way. But black male study seeks to have a different orientation and a heuristic, meaning a way of studying us so that we can repair our images and get rid of these racist caricatures that continue on, even through theory that's supposed to be theoretically against racism, namely intersectionality. So he is thought to occupy a patriarchal form, black man, that imposes itself through violence upon others, not only sociologically, but ontologically, meaning essentially. Our essence is to be violent. Nobody does that to anybody else, man, through study. Their humanity is stripped away. Or our humanity. Nobody else is given this kind of reading or interpretation in academia, except for us. Consequently, black masculinity theory is absent an existential or historical account of how black males have lived. Black male studies attempts to fill this lacuna, which is a gap, of masculinity studies by using the life stories. What have you gone through, sir? What are your experiences? The lived experiences and empirically substantiated trends. For some reason, it told me that it disconnected. If you can hear me, let me know that you can hear me. Put a 1 out there, because yeah, let me am I disconnected? Can you hear me? Put a 1 out there if you can hear me, because otherwise I'm going to stop. Take a pause for the cause. It told me that OBS, I got an indication, a notification that OBS was down for a second. Put a 1 out there. I just need to know. Okay, cool. Did you hear, like, did you get a disruption in the stream? Okay, let me just keep pushing, man. I don't know what you didn't hear or what you did hear, but it told me that, you know, there was an interruption. But anyway, there are black masculinist scholars out there, but what they do is they don't talk about how our lives have been lived. So what black male studies does is it wants to replace some of this, you know, self-deprecating black masculinity studies or these black masculinity theories that are out here, which one could basically characterize as simp studies. Simp studies. So black male studies wants to replace the simp studies. And it wants to use life stories, lived experience, and empirically substantiated trends and patterns of black male life as evidence against this mimetic model and the mimetic idols used to stand in for actual analysis concerning black men and boys. Black male studies offers alternative explanations of the gender category, the operation of patriarchy, and the myth of black male mimesis that currently feminist theories, be they black or white, use or offer up. As a paradigmatic grounding for future study, it is not concerned with the political manifestation of its theory, but rather the analytic and social reclamation of black male life against black male dying and death. So we're not trying to get ahead and postulate that we need to have more than others. We want to just study. This is Curry's words. I think it should be political, but that's just my viewpoint, right? Because I believe that the theory should have a political manifestation. So that's why I part with Curry there. But he says that he wants an analytic and social reclamation of black male life against black male dying and death. Our current gender theories, be they intersectional or not, allows for black men and boys to be represented negatively through stereotypes and abstractions of deviance. Despite the contradiction and nullification of these deleterious terms, academic theory allows black males to be depicted as violent misogynists and abusers of women and children because these accusations determine him as a placeholder of the brute and savage in thought. Despite decades of evidence showing black men and boys to be emotive partners, caring fathers, and supportive of women's rights and other egalitarian values more than any other group, including black women in many regards, black males are determined to be deviant and dangerous simply because they are black males. Because he is devoid of the humanity entailed by other human groups, he cannot refute the objecthood imposed upon him by theory to explain his behavior or character in the world. I use object here to convey the ability of the black male to be defined as not human or outside of the moral boundaries of intellectual civility. Throughout academic theory, he is defined through terms permitting his extermination within society to proceed without objection. And this is the last paragraph here, and I'm going to be done. I am reminded of David Livingstone Smith's account of dehumanization, where he states that, and this is a quote, dehumanization acts as a psychological lubricant, dissolving our inhibitions and inflaming our destructive passions. As such, it empowers us to perform acts that would, under other circumstances, be unthinkable. While Smith emphasizes the subhuman aspects of dehumanization, I am interested in the caricatures utilized to represent racialized men as the subhumans among us. the how and why racialized males, or in this case, black male bodies, are used to animate the logics of dehumanization. In this regard, black male studies share a great affinity with the research in genocide and Holocaust studies. Ultimately, and you can find some references to genocide studies on a playlist on my channel. Ultimately, black male studies is dedicated to understanding how the disproportionate death, sexual victimization, and disregard towards black men and boys continue without protest in theory and society as a function of knowledge. So yeah, I'm gonna take a break, man, and come right back. When I come right back, man, I want to see if you got any questions for me about all of this. If not, I'm gonna bounce out. I'm gonna take another little commercial break and come right back. I'll let you. At this time, I'd like to take the time to give a shout out to Juice 4 Stat. Let me give you a jab right quick. Thank you, sir. I'd like to give a super shout out to Black Men Being Brutally Honest. Thank you very much, sir, for becoming a member of the Green Gorilla channel. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Mr. Heat, thank you so much for your kind donation, sir. I appreciate you, man. Very little, man. Shout out to you, my brother. Rashid Bourne, shout out to you, my brother. And shout out to everybody out there, man. If there are any questions that you have for me about this, I'll take them now. And look, this work, man, that, is being done here is not being done for me to, become a breakout YouTube star. That's not my goal or my aim at all. All I would like to do is to create information so that we can actually understand what we're going through and to push and work towards justice in our own behalf. That's all I'm here to do, man. Now, I need support to some degree in order to keep the thing going, but I mean, my God, man. I want this information to be out here so that these caricatures can come to a close, so that our imagery and iconography can be adjusted to approximate at least reality of what we endure and what we go through. This is my desire. This is why I am here. No other reason. I didn't come here to lay on the fat of the land. I came here because I know what it's like to endure living as a black man. Doesn't matter what class you come from. It doesn't matter what social group you're in. We all feel it. That's why I am here. And I'm going to continue to do what I need to do and stay on code and stay on the program. Black men go through a lot of stuff, man, just like any other group of people. We're not perfect, but we're not innately, essentially, or ontologically pathological either. So at any rate, man, peace out to all y'all out there. One love, peace, happiness. Enjoy your evening, fellas. I'll holler at y'all tomorrow, man. One. Like Public Enemy. One. Ooh, ah.